What's up, everybody? I am Impendingduff, and welcome to my new series. Kind of new. Really, this series is a year old, but it's been exclusive to my Patreon only for the past one full year. I didn't really know what this was going to evolve into. It's become a much more in-depth and more refined and polished and focused type of thing over on my Patreon over the last 52 weeks. But as of today I released my 50-second video tutorial called A Quick Tip over on my Patreon. After a year of exclusivity on my Patreon, I think it's only fair to release that content to the rest of the world. So with heavy cringe, here is the first video one I did. The first two were actually like blog style. This one's a little rough. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Keep in mind while watching this, I filmed this a year ago, okay? And again, I wasn't quite certain where this was going. So I'm going to give you a quick tip on how to make edge highlighting a little bit easier. I have hypoglycemia, so sometimes my hand trembles, a little exaggerated, but sometimes I get the shakes from my blood sugar. This tip was given to me by, I believe it was Vince. Gave it to me at a class I took with him last August, I think. It could have been someone else. I don't remember the actual source. I want to be fair and credit the source, but watch the video. Please forgive me for the cringiness, but the quick tip point is not that it's necessarily a quick tip, because these will, over time, they become actual full-on tutorials and they become 15-20 minutes long. It's quick in the fact that I literally just hit record on this camera, started talking as if I were live streaming on Twitch. So if you enjoy it, please do me a favor, hit the subscribe button here on YouTube. It's free to do so, and as a full-time content creator, it would really help me out. You can also check out the Patreon. Literally $5 a month gets you access to the entire archive. Right now I have 68 total tutorials that are exclusive to Patreon. You get access to the archives, all 68 tutorials, plus I release a new one of these every single week, and you have the opportunity to influence what the topic is. So check it out. I'll leave the link down below. I would really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button and check out the Patreon. If you enjoy these, I will be releasing these year past videos every single week from here on out. Thank you very much for watching. Enjoy the cringe on these first couple of ones before they get a little more in-depth and refined. But without further ado, I will stop rambling. You enjoy the video, and I hope it helps you. Take care, gang. Alright, guys. Quick tip number 3 is going to be on edge highlighting. I got a nice little tip this week, and it's been really helping me out. It's about making edge highlighting easier, especially for someone like me who has uncontrollable shakes at times. A lot of the times, like, these sharp edges are going to be really easy to hit, right? You strike the side with the side of the brush, right? And you've got yourself a nice edge highlight, okay? So that's not the difficult part, right? But what about when we get into this area here where we next to almost no sharp edge to highlight? Well, you can always try your damnedest to stay as straight as possible and not fuck it up and not get a fat line. But it usually ends up being pretty pathetic like that, right? You know, anything with a sharp edge is easy. You just knock it, and that's pretty broad. That's a bad edge highlight in my mind. Like, if you're trying to strike an edge highlight, you really want it to be really sharp, right? So you're almost not hitting the miniature, right? You're making a couple of passes and barely nicking that miniature. That's a good edge highlight. But again, you come up on these lines where you have no other way of hitting that edge highlight easily, right? So what you can do, especially if you're like me and you shake a lot, is get in there, and I'll come in with a slightly thinned down paint, nothing too crazy. I'm just using some Pro Acryl Ivory because it pops. Get some excess off here. You can even, just like your glazing, you know, you can load up your brush and then dab the excess, because any type of added pressure is going to create a blob or a smudge, or you're trying to keep something thin and you end up right. We don't want that. So what you're going to do is you're going to find that edge and you're just going to stipple along. Now hopefully the camera is going to stay in focus here, but if you follow that edge by stippling it on, you'll get a much sharper edge highlight. And it is a little time consuming, but you know what? It's clean. And it might be a little broken up, that's okay. You come back and get a little more refined, right? See how nice and fine that highlight is? It might take a second, but if you can't hold a straight line, then stippling is where it's at. And eventually, you keep going over it, and you'll have a very nice, sharp edge highlight. Pretty simple, pretty cool. Strike this one, and you're good to go. Booyakasha. Same thing on like these little scales here on the inside. Some of them are pretty pronounced, so you might be able to strike a pretty good edge highlight on it, but good luck using the edge of your brush. So you just come in here and you tap on the edge. The very, very sharp pointed brush, okay? We're not doing this with a very blunt nosed brush, but it's thin so that if you do mess up, you can just come back in and hit it. But the point is, I'm able to highlight the sharpest highlight possible by just stippling it on. And it's that freaking simple. It's so stupid, but it's simple, right? And if you were just watching the stream, I literally just came off stream. I was doing that with Magus here, and on her cloth, I intentionally kept it very, very coarse. And that, in turn, also gives the cloth a nice texture and a little bit more depth into the texture of that cloth. Kind of sells that cloth. Also over here on her bracer, I used it as a more of a shine, a broken up shine on like a pleather technique there. So there you go. I've been struggling with this sword. I'm probably going to come back in and clean this sword up with a little stippling edge highlight right down the center there, because it's very hard to strike that line. So you can use it yourselves and let me know how it goes for you guys, and I'll catch you next week on the next quick tip. Thank you all so much for being a part of the Patreon. I hope you guys are finding value and enjoying your time. Have a good one.